Good afternoon. Welcome to Friday afternoon meditation. Hello to anybody who's watching at the Newport Ritchie Library. For the last few weeks, I've been going over the foundations of this practice. First, I gave a general overview. Then I was away for a week and somebody else filled in. Last week, I talked about thinking because it's something people struggle with in meditation. There's nothing to struggle with. What I'll say about that briefly is there's a misconception that you have to shut off the mind. You have to quiet that. That cannot be done. Okay. As I say often, the people who can do that appear every 500 to 1,000 years. We usually start religions well. Not you, not me. My teacher has been practicing for 50 years. And he was like, give up on that. So what we get from a mindfulness practice, come on in. What we get from a mindfulness practice is a different relationship with the thought stream. Because it is true that our thoughts are real and that we hear them. But they're also not true. They are not truths. Right? I think somebody was late because I'm terrible at this. That's a thought. Right? It is not a truth. I don't think that, by the way. When I was a therapist, my practice would slow down because of the way I was conditioned. I would go to, oh, I'm a terrible therapist. That's when my practice is slowing down, which is absolutely has nothing, the two are not related, right? Because the universe at large would have to know I'm a bad therapist and like conspire to not send me. So we all have kind of a negative default in the thinking. There's actual neurobiology behind that. So don't beat yourself up for that. In fact, don't beat yourself up for anything, ever. This is a gentleness practice. This is a self-compassion practice. And if you come to these sessions over time, you will see me pointing towards self-compassion on a regular basis. That's the essence of the teaching. So last week, there are 4 foundations of mindfulness. Mindfulness of thinking, mindfulness of feelings, or feeling tone, mindfulness of the body, and mindfulness of, it's called mindfulness of Dharma. What that means is mindfulness of the preconceived ideas that we have that we may or may not be conscious of, but through which we filter the world. We all have it. We all have our top 5. That's one friend of mine likes to say. So I'll be addressing those later. Today, we're going to talk about mindfulness of feelings. And I told another teacher friend of mine I was going to talk about mindfulness of feelings today, and she challenged me to break into that song about feelings. Feelings, nothing more than feelings. And I told her the point of these sessions is to minimize suffering, not to inflict it. So there will be no singing by me today, but don't let that stop you. So I'll say more about this a little later. But the format, by the way, for the new folks, I give a brief introduction, which is what I'm doing now. I do a guided meditation that takes about 25 minutes or half an hour. And then I give a talk about some aspect of this. The basic instruction, and I'll walk you through it, is to focus on your breathing. Sounds simple. As soon as you do that, the mind wanders off someplace into like yesterday or tomorrow, or I was in pop radio in the 70s. I hear some of that. Oh my God. I hope I get over that one day. None of that really matters. As soon as you notice, just kindly, compassionately being nice to yourself slide your attention back to your breathing. You may have to do this 50 times in a half an hour. It's all good. And if you find you're getting a little stressed out by it, that's fine, because every part of our experience is good. What I do when I'm experiencing that is when I come back to my breathing, when I notice that I have wandered off, I say to myself, "Oh, good." Because those moments you notice, that's the meat of mindfulness. And the acceptance of that is also the meat of mindfulness, self-acceptance. I'm going to talk about that. So it's actually a gift you're giving yourself every time you notice you've wandered off. You're giving yourself a gift of attention, compassionate attention. And you're giving yourself the gift of training your mind to come back to where you are. Questions about any of that? Can go back to being a cab driver? Which wasn't that far afield from being a shrink, by the way. So I have a meditation timer app. It's called Insight Timer. You can download it for free. My iPhone Bluetooth to my hearing aids. I hear the bell. You don't. It's kind of cool, isn't it? When I'm talking to people on the phone, it's like I might be having a psychotic break. There are voices in my head. Then I ring the bell after that. So I invite you to find a comfortable meditation posture. A meditation posture is something we do consciously. And when we consciously take a posture, we're offering a signal to our psyche and our body that we are entering into something, a space different than the one we were in when we were like riding up the elevator and walking in here. And a meditation posture is comfortable. If you can sit up straight, that's helpful. If you can't, that's fine. People have all kinds of body issues. It helps if your head and your back are aligned. And if there's like a string on the crown of your head and you pulled it up a little bit and you tucked in your chin without stressing the muscles in your neck, that aligns your back. And a meditation posture is one in which you can be relaxed and alert at the same time. If we slouch back, our mind is more inclined to get a little dopey. We're more likely to lose attention, fall asleep. So that's why we sit up. Another thing I want to say before we begin, a couple of people have asked me about distraction. If you were here last week, it was loud next door. They had a children's group. They were talking about meteorology and the weather. We could hear it. There are no distractions in meditation. Everything is like in a field and everything is part of the field. So if you hear something or your thoughts are distracting in quotes, notice what happens to you. Does your body get a little more intense? You hear something, does your mind wrap a whole narrative around that? Something like, I wish they wouldn't do that, or, oh, I remember that. Just notice those things. This is a noticing practice. Everything that happens is part of the practice. Questions about that? Okay. The point that the way that was explained to me one time is the idea of this too. Anything that comes up while you're meditating, thoughts, feelings, noise, twitches or uncomfortableness in the body, this too. It's all included. It's a unified experience. Don't worry about it. And if you find yourself wishing it was different, just notice that without judgment. So when your mind wanders off, which it will, just notice that it's done that without getting involved in the narrative or the story or whatever we think we're thinking about. Because the thinking feels like we're somewhere else, but the thinking is actually happening in the present moment. And we come back to our breathing, which brings us back to our body, and the body is always in the present moment. So I invite you to find a comfortable posture in which you can be alert and relaxed at the same time. I invite you to lower your gaze like down the bridge of your nose in such a way that it relaxes the muscles around your eyes. And gently close your eyes. And let's take a few slow, deep breaths just to connect to the breathing in the body. Receiving the breath coming in and noticing maybe your spine straightens, maybe your chest straightens a little bit. Notice your chest and your belly expanding. Slow, deep breath in. Long, slow breath out. And notice that your shoulders might fall a little bit. Your chest and your belly might relax. Receiving a long, slow in breath. And as you breathe out, just begin the process of relaxing, softening your body as much as you can. There's no have to do it right. You might want to start by relaxing the muscles around your eyes. They do a lot of work, and the muscles in your face do a lot of work. On the out breath, we're just breathing out tension, stress, letting the shoulders relax. Long, slow, deep breath in. And relaxing and letting the body soften on the out breath. And letting your breathing return to normal. And continuing as you breathe out to just relax, soften, let the mind settle to whatever degree it does. No concern about the process or whether you're doing it right, because you are. The doing it is the doing it. I invite you to notice contact points. Notice the sensations of your feet resting on the floor. What that feels like on your bottom of your feet. The gentle pull on your bottom resting in the chair, and the gentle pull of gravity. What that feels like on your bottom, on your legs. Maybe noticing the ambient temperature of the room. Do you feel cool? Do you feel warm? Do you feel nothing? Noticing the sensations of your hands in your lap, what that feels like on your hands, what that feels like on your legs. Now I invite you to bring your attention to the sensations of the body breathing in and out. Noticing the sensations of the air moving in and out of your neck. Cooler on the in breath, maybe warmer on the out breath. Noticing the sensations of your chest, your belly moving in and out. And to keep your attention resting gently on the sensations of breathing. Some people focus on the belly moving in and out. Some people focus on the sensations in the nose. Some people focus on the global sensation of the body breathing. Whatever's easy and simple. Breathing in, aware of breathing in. Breathing out, aware of breathing out. If it helps, on the in breath, you can say to yourself, breathing in. On the out breath, you can say, breathing out. You notice your thinking, the mind has wandered off. It's just what the mind does. It's all good. Just gently slide your attention back to the body breathing. Thoughts arise, feelings come and go, sensations come and go. It's all good. It's all happening in the present moment. And we can just bring our focus gently back to the breath. And as we come towards the end of the sitting, let's invite you to notice how you're feeling right now. And if there's any calmness or settledness that set in as a result of this practice, may that help enable us to walk more calmly and more peacefully through our days. And if there isn't, can take it as an opportunity for self-compassion and recognizing you can't do this wrong. And it is what it is. And may it be that the benefits of this practice help us to be a little more kind and gentle as we walk through our days, to view the world through the eyes of kindness to ourselves, to others around us. To be more compassionate with ourselves and to those around us. May the benefits of this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be at ease and at peace, including us. And may we contribute to that fostering in the world around. Thank you for your practice. As I said earlier, today we're talking about feelings, mindfulness of feelings. We tend to meet our feelings generally in one of two ways. I like that. I don't like that. Ping-ponging or sort of like floating back and forth between attachment and aversion. We feel good. I'm going to cling to that. I'm going to try to keep that. But because all things are impermanent, especially states of mind, when that starts to fade, now we start to suffer a little bit. Maybe we attach a narrative around it. Some version of this is not okay. And then when we're feeling less than good, angry, depressed, sad, whatever, we meet that with this. Get that away from me. It's very ungentle. But what's really called for when we're having difficult feelings is gentleness and self-compassion. Let me ask a question. I'm going to go around the room. Are there good and bad feelings? You know, because you've seen me do this before. Are there good and bad feelings? Okay, everybody's agreed on that. And I'm going to say no.
There's a nice butterfly. Wonderful. Did you see that? Yeah.
Yeah. If we think if we assume there are good and bad feelings, then we're more inclined to cling to or reject parts of our experience. Feelings have three qualities: pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. That's it. Don't let anybody ever tell you shouldn't feel that way. Of course you should. You're a human being having a human experience. It's easy to accept the comfortable feelings. I was on a meditation retreat a couple of months ago now. I love mockingbirds. I just love mockingbirds. And there was a mockingbird right outside the window of the meditation hall every morning. Bless you. I so loved that. And then it was cold one morning. There was no mockingbird out there because they don't sing in the cold. And I actually felt my system go, oh. And I felt I heard the narrative in my head saying, well, that's ridiculous, which is a little on the harsh side, right? So if we view our feelings as just pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral instead of good or bad, it's easier to be kind to ourselves no matter what our experience tends to be, which is really the most important piece of it. We do tend to navigate the world through the system of attachment and aversion. To me, it feels like at one point I described it as like I'm in this room, but it's not stable, right? So it like tilts and I go over here and it tilts again and I go over here. Attachment, aversion. This is the art of knowing you're okay, even when it feels difficult. I've had some difficult days recently. I injured my leg. I just spent 10 days at home with my leg elevated, trying not to be too much of a pain in the butt. But I had some difficult, mornings with that. If I'm going to be depressed, it's going to be in the morning. And at some point in that experience, I remembered, and that's the point, I remembered. Don't always remember. We're training ourselves to remember. I remembered that I'm actually okay. I'm just having a difficult moment. And the narrative, I'm not okay, or I must have done something wrong, which is one of my defaults. I was able, because I practice mindfulness and have been working on this, I was able to tell myself, well, okay, this is inconvenient, but I'm doing the best I can. And I'm taking care of this. This is a good thing. I'm pretty open about the fact that I'm a recovering addict. And part of that is having to learn to take care of yourself, and that it's important to do so. Most addicts don't know that, or they do, but they're like taking that off into a direction that includes like substances and behaviors that don't really work. Now, I just had a really interesting real-time experience. I just heard a tone in my left hearing aid, and the battery went dead. Right? Now, I had a little thing go off in my head that said, oh no. But it's fine. I got batteries in the car. They're all over the house. I can hear fine on my right. It's all good. I just thought I would share the real-time experience. And what we're talking about here really is self-acceptance. I was a therapist for 25 years. And so many people came to me with, I'm having this difficult experience. I'm not okay with myself because I'm having this difficult experience. And to me, the path of therapy always included, what if you accepted that and knew you were okay and it's just a passage? It's always just a passage. We're in a dark space is because we're in a tunnel. And sometimes the tunnel dips in the middle of it, so we can't see the light as easily. It might feel like a cave where we're stuck in the back and the front end is collapsing. It is always a tunnel. It is always a passage. It is never a cave. There's a big, bright, beautiful light at the end of the tunnel, which is the big, bright, beautiful light you get to have at the end of this tunnel, and or me coming at you on a motorcycle. Stick out your hand, I'll pull you on board. It's a kind of, what I'm talking about is a kind of a non-judgmental acceptance. Your friend is having a difficult day, maybe a little depressed, sad, grieving. You wouldn't go, no. We might do that to ourselves, right? So what I'm suggesting is we offer ourselves the same compassion that we offer anybody else. And we recognize that feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, simply come and go. Just breathe into it. And what I've noticed is the feelings that I resist, what you resist persist. Right? If I'm feeling sad, something happened. Something happened a few months ago and I was kind of angry. Anger has a bad reputation for the wrong reasons. I'm actually a fan of anger. For one thing, it's just a feeling like all the others. has a bad reputation because people equate being angry with doing angry things. The art of anger, or the art of any feeling, is to not have it be a call to action. We had a neighbor across the street in Indiana. I think that he used to look in and see if I was meditating before he started his lawnmower. That's a narrative in my head. Bruce is a good guy. I'm sure he still is, but we don't see him anymore. And I had this, I'm going to walk across the street and scold him or something, you know. It's like, but you know, in meditation, there are no interruptions. It's all everything in the field of experience. And one of my favorite writers about this, a woman named Jeannie DePro, I'll bring her essay sometime on this particular issue. She said, and so I remind myself as often as I must, which is very often, that no matter what I'm feeling, I can just breathe into it and it'll be okay. And if I get mad at myself for thinking that I want to go like, you know, complain to Bruce, then I've got two things going on. I'm a little annoyed at Bruce, I'm a little annoyed at me. And then I've got three things going on. I'm a little annoyed at me because I'm for being the guy who always preaches self-compassion, and I'm not being very self-compassionate. And then I go to, well, I'm obviously doing it wrong. And then I go to, well, I should just like hang it up. Right? And then on and on and on and on it goes, right? Anybody familiar with any of this? It's the human condition, right? Or it's the way we as humans have been conditioned in this culture. Not everybody goes here. Got to see the Dalai Lama one time. Big amphitheater. We spent some money on sponsorships so we could get up close. And 3 days of teachings, and you cannot be exposed to this guy without having a life-changing experience. On the third day, he's doing Q&A. And someone asked him, what about anger and frustration? And he paused for a second. And he kind of shrugged and says, well, I experienced that. Just like totally accepting. I dig that. And I've talked before, and I've talked about it a lot. About the teaching of the two arrows. You know about this. It's one of my favorite teachings. The first arrow is inevitable. Something hurts. Somebody did something that I'm not okay with. Something happened. It hurts. I'm having a difficult emotional experience. That's the first arrow. There's nothing I can do about that. Life just presents itself, right? The second arrow is completely optional. The second arrow is when I build a narrative around it that says, I'm not okay with this. Or I'm not okay because of this. Or I build some ungentle, discompassionate narrative around whatever this wound is. This one happens on its own. This one is something I do. My first week in grad school, I actually remember this from my first week in grad school. What was that, 1994? They made us read this article on decision making. And the takeaway for me was that the Hopi Indians believe in every situation there are 88 possibilities. I don't know how they came up with that. I don't care. I just like it. They have a ritual where they will make somebody jump up and down on one leg until they can name all 88. If anyone feels like doing that in the heat, I'll watch. It's not a required part of the teaching. So over here, I have this thing happen. Over here, there's 88 possibilities of what I can tell myself, which include, this doesn't feel so great, but I'm okay. Or could include some version of, I have to make this stop. In which case it just, you know, what we resist persists. Just the longer I try to push it away, the longer it stays. I can always choose to be gentle. You can always choose to be gentle. It is not always the obvious choice. Feelings are just like clouds, that's all. little wispy around the edges, really dense in the middle, a little wispy on the edges. They kind of like float by. And they're a somatic experience. How do I, if I'm angry, I feel that in my shoulders and my neck. And it's kind of like my shoulders are trying to like fold my body in half to be more protected. If I'm sad, it's going to be like right here in the pit of my belly. If I'm really joyous, it's like right here. I feel like I'm opening up. All feelings are somatic. We feel something in our body, and then we stick a label on it, and then it's a feeling. Now all of a sudden we have an emotion. And then we get to decide what narrative we want to attach to it, or none at all. I was at a Zen sitting more than 30 years ago. During my very early training as a therapist, very early, I had hair. This was black. I could hear out of both ears. And there was a guy in this sitting who I knew was having a very difficult time. And he asked the teacher during the Q&A, what do I do about these feelings? And the teacher gave the best answer I ever heard. He said, welcome them, be kind to them, treat them as honored guests, and eventually they will leave. I think that's one of my favorite teachings I ever heard. And I talk frequently about, Buddha's experience of self-doubt. Mara, the god of illusion, trying to stop the awakening, was throwing all of his doubts at. And finally, he just looked right at it and said, I see you. Let's have tea. He met it with his whole experience with gentleness and invitation. Flash forward 2,500 years later, and I get to meet one of the senior teachers in Europe who came to the Insight Meditation Center where I was practicing at the time, Ajahn Sundra. She's the abbot of the monastery in Cambridge, England, and she was offering, called an interview, a 15-minute meeting, and I'm a groupie for this. I will always sign up for the interview. So I get this interview with Ajahn Sundra, and I don't remember a lot of it, but I, told her whatever was going on with me. And she reminded me of the Buddha and Mara story and said, when you're feeling doubtful about your experience, whatever it is, just say, I see you, Mara.
I see you.
I see you, Mara. Mara.
What did you say?
So I invite you to remember to remind yourself as often as you must, which will be quite often, in those difficult times, that you're still okay. You're just having a difficult passage. And in the joyous times, enjoy it. And don't worry about it when it starts to fade. And be kind and gentle with yourself. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn on my right hearing aid. I have a confession. In grad school, sometimes if it got really, we have these like community process meetings. Everybody is like, when you say that, I feel disempowered kind of stuff. I would turn off my hearing aid. Any questions or comments about any of that? Yes.
Well, my question is kind of like, I've always been interested in Buddhism, but books that I've read are like beyond my comprehension. Is there like a beginner's easy book
Yes.
to read?
First off, this school of Buddhism, there's various schools of Buddhism, and this one is called Theravada. And what I like about it is it's simple. Yeah. We can get lost in questions of incarnation and Bardo spaces and all of that. But it really is about wisdom and compassion. Very simple. Any of the books by Thich Nhat Hanh, that's spelled Thich, Nhathanh.
Oh, and
Yeah, Thich Nhat Hanh.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, The Miracle of Mindfulness is a really good book.
It doesn't get way beyond.
No, it's very like practical.
Miracle of Mind.
There's a story he tells him that where he has a friend over for dinner and his friend offers to do the dishes. And he says, well, you can do the dishes only on one condition. Are you washing the dishes to get them clean? Or are you washing the dishes just to wash the dishes? Just do it to do it, right? Am I meditating to get somewhere or am I meditating just to sit here? I'm meditating just to sit here. Sherry Huber, Cheri, last name Huber. My favorite book of hers is That Which You Are Seeking is Causing You to Seek. Thich Nhat Hanh's book, The Heart of Buddha's Teachings, is really good, but it's a little dense. Yeah. Well, what I like about Thich Nhat Hanh, his writing is very clear, like you can blow wind through it. It's very clear, it's very simple. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Martin Luther King. It's that guy.
He's still living?
I'm sorry?
He's still living?
No, he died a couple of years ago. A great light went out. Yeah. Yeah. I've read a lot of his stuff, and we got to see him one time, and that was extremely cool. It was him and Pema Chodron and Natalie Goldberg, of all people.
I've listened to Pema Chodron, but some of her stuff got a little bit beyond too.
Also, Tara Brach, Brach. Her book, Radical Acceptance, is one of my favorite books. Basically, the premise is we live in a culture where self-acceptance is a radical idea. It is. I mean, if you look at the advertising industry, it's all about you're not okay, so buy this. So self-acceptance is a radical idea. So radical acceptance. It's a great book. It's a really great book.
That was Tara Brach.
Tara, Tara, Brach, Brach. But I'll sum up the whole thing in a quick sentence. Just be kind and gentle with yourself all the time.
Pardon?
Just be kind and gentle with yourself all the time.
No, but I've always been interested in learning their teachings.
I'm sorry?
I've always been interested in learning some of the Buddhism teaching, but it just seemed like they're calming.
Buddha essentially taught, I never know in these things, in these sessions, how openly Buddhist to be. One library I talked to was like, not at all. And they couldn't schedule me, so I guess the karma of that worked out.
I'm open to it. I was brought up.
Buddha basically said, dukkha, it's a Pali word, suffering or grief or dissatisfaction is a part of the human experience. We can't avoid it. And by saying that, I think it's a beautiful teaching because often we don't give ourselves permission to have those experiences. And the solution to that is our attachment to needing it to be something else. So it comes down to self-acceptance. I was not really happy about, even binge watching Oscar nominated movies. Television is pretty boring when you're stuck in the house for 10 days. And there were times where I did not feel so okay with that experience. Mindfulness practice helps us recognize more quickly when our thought stream is taking us off the rails into something ungentle, which will amplify the difficulty of our experience. So I suggest you practice meditation 20 minutes every day.
I've done it 10 minutes a day. That's a start for me.
When you first start, that feels like a very long time,
Yeah, it does.
especially because the mind the mind gets like really jumpy. When you first start practicing this, that part of the mind goes, "Oh no, you don't," and it just like throws everything. And if you notice that stuff, none of it is about what's happening now, right? But it's important to realize about those thoughts. The thoughts are happening now. Just the thought is not the thing you're thinking about. What's actually happening is you're sitting here having this experience. If 10 minutes works for you, that's fine. Start where you are. But Joseph Goldstein, who wrote a really great book on this called Seeking the Heart of Wisdom, said, never let a day go by without sitting, even if it's only 2 minutes. I hope that was helpful.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes I like to spew a lot of verbiage, and I'm not sure that I answered the question. I should be in PR or politics. Anybody have anything else? Unfortunately, I have Zoom set up so I can't see or hear those people. Feel free to text or message or call. So thank you. I'm here every Friday at 1 o'clock. I'm also at Third Eye Creations, which is a metaphysical store in Holiday every other Wednesday at 6:30. I am available if you want to reach out and talk about any of this. There's several years of these teachings archived on my YouTube channel. You can find that through my website. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.